Hey guys, so Avatar The Last Airbender is on Netflix now, and I decided to finally watch it. I'm not really sure how this show escaped me as a child, especially since I was a Nickelodeon kid, but until it came on Netflix, I'd never seen a single episode.
What?
Are you serious right now? Man, this is crazy!
You broke my heart.
You are made of
I think part of it was that the amount of hype behind the show is kind of intimidating, but I put that aside and thought I'd be okay with watching and reviewing each season now that we're all desperate for things to do. I was initially very pleased with the show's tone and overall writing style. It's certainly aimed at kids, but overall Avatar isn't too kiddish that you're unable to take the characters and situations as seriously as they ask you to. It certainly doesn't overextend itself with the level of emotion you're supposed to have at any given moment, and is more often satisfied to let character development speak for itself than over-explain it to you. One thing in particular I like about the writing and wish more shows did was how seamlessly it transitions back and forth between following the heroes and villains. In most episodes we get to see whatever Zuko's doing and it never feels like the show is wasting time. I think the show is only so successful because its characters are so well rounded. There's no one person you can tell the producers were really pushing to be a fan favorite, when they easily could have pushed other characters aside to make one look better than the other. Right now I'd have to say my favorites are Iroh and Sokka. Sokka especially feels like he could have very easily been a one-note comedy relief character who's just kind of useless, but I like how he's the one coming up with a lot of weird off-the-wall ideas to get them out of bad situations. While I don't mind the show's sense of humor, I wouldn't say it's the show's strong point. The show is at its best when fleshing out the story and during the action sequences. For instance, we never get a good look at the Fire Lord or the city of Ba Sing Se, but both are teased enough to pique our interest without hitting us over the head with how important they are. The show is full of fun, well-executed bits of mythology that are actually relevant to the story. If you were a kid, this was probably very formative in how you see stories, because this was the first time you saw characters and events contextualized this well. For me, though, the action sequences are probably the show's best aspect so far. Not only are they often just better than fight scenes from similar shows like Pokemon, Teen Titans, and even Naruto, but they also tend to be more plentiful and are much faster paced. I will say I think this first season gets a little episodic at times. I get television wasn't released all at once like it is today, and Nickelodeon had to make sure kids would be able to follow the story if they hadn't seen the other episodes, but there is a definite formula that becomes apparent after a while, especially in episodes that aren't related to the season's overall arc. I guess it's not so bad, because even in these episodes we're introduced to really fun characters like Boomy, the Kyoshi Warriors, and the Pirate Gang. Overall, it's probably the best filler a show like this could hope to have, but even though not every episode is like this, the show definitely settles into a formula of encountering a person or place, and then the heroes foiling some kind of attack from the Fire Nation. Also, some of the episodes with dedicated messages are a bit on the nose too. I think they're executed the best they could have been, given this was a kid's show, but it isn't exactly difficult to decode even if you were a kid. Still not exactly sure what the moral of the Great Divide was, though. If you want to stop people from arguing, just lie to them. Because this show is so popular, just through word of mouth, I was already aware of certain character arcs. I imagine what inevitably happens to Zuko in the later seasons is much more compelling to watch unfold as a child as the new episodes came out. And silly as this might sound, I knew some plot lines going in because of the Shyamalan movie. Like, I already knew who the Blue Spirit was gonna be, I knew there was an Earthbender prison camp, and I knew that someone turns into the moon. Yeah, that film misses the mark in the way of execution the most an adaptation of this show possibly could, but it gives enough of the basic plot for me to anticipate certain parts of the story. Also, the animation in the first few episodes was much choppier than I was prepared for, and there are some dated CGI effects sprinkled around in there. At that point, I don't think the show had quite as much in the way of budget, but at some point they clearly worked up the trust they needed, because that isn't a problem for very long. So overall, this was a promising start, but Avatar didn't exactly give me anything I wasn't anticipating. Watching it now, I think it has to get a little better to warrant the reputation it's associated with, but because of how little Avatar talks down to the audience, it's not exactly a secret why it caught on so well. I'm definitely looking forward to the other two seasons, and I'd give Avatar Season 1 a 7 out of 10.